Now to accompany the crab stew that we're cooking, I'll show you what salad and dessert that I would serve with this. Of course, let me check my, oh, look at this. See what I told you would happen? It's all, well, I tell you, this really goes well together. Now this, at this point is when I would actually turn my fire off for Melissa, but for myself, I would keep cooking it. So that's what I'm gonna cook them the way I like them today. I'll lower my fire and I'm gonna just, oh, look at my crab stew. See, I told you this would be gorgeous and smell so good. Now, okay. Now we're gonna do the salad. Of course, you know Cajuns don't do fancy salads. They all do plain and simple salads. So Mama always had her tomato and cucumber and lettuce, and that's why we had it. Was the reason is that we grew it on the farm. So actually the way I'm going to cut this lettuce, I'm just going to kind of slice it a little bit like this. And I use their serrated knife. They say if you use a serrated knife, it's not going to turn brown. So that's what I'm going to do. And this is how Mama cut her lettuce up. She always, of course, Mama didn't have a cutting board. And, oops. Put it right here. This is how she arranged it on her plate. It wasn't really fancy, but now, like I said, we always peel our cucumbers at home because Mama couldn't stand the peelings. And of course, I like the peelings, but you know, Mama did it her way. She could do that. She was the main cook. And now, of course, I always peel my cucumbers. Now, and this is the way. See, Mama didn't have a cutting board, and I've seldom used one either because one day a man came home and he said, "You're going to cut your hands off." And I said, "No, Mama didn't cut hers off. She lived to be over 80 years old, and she cooked every day." So, and this is how you slice your tomatoes, in your hand. Of course, the chefs would do it like this, but this is how I do it. Plain old Cajun cooking. Now, what we used with this was salt and pepper. We never had any salad dressings in those days. I don't think they were invented when I was a girl. That tells you how old I am, right? Let me stir in this. Oh my gosh, it smells so good. Okay, now for the bread pudding that I promised you, the dessert I was going to show you. And I have already scalded some milk here. And so I'm going to go ahead and use this to soak my bread. But first I'm going to show you how I cut my bread up. This is the French bread. You can use the regular bread because at home we always had leftover bread, and you know Cajuns don't waste the thing that they have. So we always use the leftover old, or I guess week-old bread if it didn't get stale. But cut it up this way. You want it kind of in thick pieces because it has to make kind of like a pudding, which is, you know, bread pudding, right? All right. Okay, now Mama would soak her bread and she would mush it and put it in, but this is the way I've learned to do it. Of course, you know how daughters are. They never listen to their mamas, so this is how we do it. Now, okay. All right. Now to this bowl, I'm just going to cut up, well, no, I'm not going to cut up any eggs. I'm going to crack some eggs. Now, I'm not a good egg cracker. I never learned how to do this one-hand job, so just have to bear with me. Okay, I'm going to use my whisk. I don't know how people ever did without whisk in the old days because I sure never could. Okay, then I'm going to put my sugar in here. Beat that up real good. Okay, like this. Add some, well, you can use raisins or apples or anything you want in here. Fresh peaches are wonderful to use in this, but like I said, we didn't have that in the old days. We just had the raisins, so that's what I'm using. Now to this, I'm going to add my milk. And just pour it in here with my melted butter. All right. Of course, now most of the time, I like to add vanilla flavor to this, but Mama didn't, so this is her original recipe, so I'm just going to go ahead and use it like this, okay? Now, I'm going to pour this over here. Pour all that together. You pat it down. Make sure that bread is just good and soaked. You have to kind of play with it. That's it. Now, Okay. Now, even though the bread is hard, it's gonna soften when you pour the milk over it. Of course, you kind of throw your raisins all over, okay? Now, all right, I've got my pudding all mixed. It's ready to go in the oven, but before I put the pudding in the oven, I'm gonna fix a pan. Well, I did already. I put the pan of water in the oven before I turn the oven on. And what that has to do with this is that you let the pan of water right underneath in the bottom tray of the oven. And then you set your pudding right on top of it, and it keeps the moisture in your pudding. You don't want to ever let your puddings get dry because that's not good. But anyway, when you, sticking up, when you put this in the oven at 350 degrees, for about an hour, and you check it periodically and you let it get a golden brown on top. So I'm gonna do that now. Okay, now I haven't made any sauces for this because actually we didn't know what a sauce was when I was growing up. We knew what gravy was because all Cajuns knew what gravy was, but now we have all these fancy sauces introduced, and of course we have the lemon sauce and the whiskey sauce and the rum sauce, but that's okay. I love those. When I'm in restaurants, I go ahead, but at home I never do because this was the plain bread pudding that my daddy enjoyed. We always used the leftover bread. So let me check this. Ooh, yes, cameraman's nightmare. Okay. Well, the cabbage is just fine. This is how I like it. Melissa will just have to do without her cabbage today because this is for Mama. Now, I guess we'll just go ahead and season this in a bit. Let me check my crab stew. Ooh, look at this. See those gorgeous Louisiana crabs? Look at that claw. Ooh, wow. Can't wait to eat that. Okay. Now, let me get this out of the way. Of course, I've got my beautiful salad. It's not that beautiful because Cajuns didn't worry about what their food looked like. It's just what it tasted. This is the cabbage that I've cooked to accommodate this meal. And with the miracle of television, I have the bread pudding. Voila. So this is the gorgeous bread pudding that we're going to eat. But this is going to be the best yet. So, whoo, messy cook. I guess I must be a good cook because they say all good cooks are messy cooks. I've got the wonderful shrimp. Look at that. I wanted that crab claw. I told you I was going to get it. Lots of gravy on that rice, you know. Make sure your gravy is real thick. It's not a gumbo. Gumbos are thin and stews are thick. So that's the difference. Same roux, but just a different consistency in your gravy. Man, I think that ought to fix me up for today, really. So I'm gonna get me a spoon here. All right. All righty. So I'm gonna taste this. I'll bet it's good. It sure smells good. Pass the test. I'm now visiting the Acadian Village in Lafayette, Louisiana, where they have the authentic Cajun homes that were brought here from way out in the country where the old Cajuns lived. And these are here for the public to enjoy and for people to understand what Cajun life was like many years ago. Of course, this is at the Thibodeau Mansion, which is the Thibodeau House. And of course, we have the bedroom downstairs for the mama and the daughters and the father, of course, and we also have the kitchen here. Then upstairs, the boys' rooms were there, where the mother had their loom in order to weave. The father's nets for crawfishing and crabbing and such were also made up there. So this is very unique in itself. So I will be reading you Brenda Durham's letter from Baton Rouge, and this is what Brenda says. Dear Miss Lucy, your cooking show is so authentic and brings back such wonderful memories. My Creole heritage is so similar to yours. My parents were born and reared in Opelousas and Rain, and though they lacked money, they were rich in love, creativity, and joie de vivre. Your beautiful accent is like music to my ears. May God continue to bless you with success on your show. Respectfully, Brenda Trahan Durham. Thank you so much, Brenda, for writing to me. I really appreciate your letter. And two, I appreciate you, my viewers, and I hope that you continue to join me next week, Sha. See you then.